Hello everyone, welcome to an amazing video of Simplilearn on Azure DevOps. This video will help you understand the use of DevOps in Azure, as well as it will help you explore the in-depth services and features provided to you by Azure DevOps. So without doing any further ado, let's start with the video. But before moving ahead, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for more updates from Simplilearn. So let's see what we are going to cover in this video. First, we will understand what is Azure DevOps, followed by features of Azure DevOps. Then we will dive into and explore Azure DevOps services, followed by Azure DevOps Server, and then we will look into the Azure DevOps services and Azure DevOps Server differences. And at last, we will explore Azure DevOps Labs with proper demonstration. So let's get started. So what is Azure DevOps? Azure DevOps enables teams to organize work, collaborate on code development, and build and deploy applications using developer services. Azure DevOps is a culture and set of protocols that brings together developers, project managers, and contributors to collaborate on software development. It enables businesses to create and enhance products more quickly than they could with traditional software development methods. You can use Azure DevOps services in the cloud or Azure DevOps Server on premises. Azure DevOps has built-in functionality that you may access via a web browser or an IDE client. Depending on your business needs, you can use one or more of the following standalone services. Azure Repos. Azure DevOps are built-in functionality. So for source management of your code, Azure Repos offer Git repositories or Team Foundation version control. Azure Pipelines. Build and release services provided by Azure Pipelines to assess continuous integration and delivery of your applications. Azure Boards. Using Kanban and Scrum methodologies, Azure Boards provides a set of agile tools for planning and tracking work, code bugs, and issues. Azure Test Plans. Manual and exploratory testing and continuous testing are among the options available in Azure Test Plans for testing your applications. And at last, Azure Artifacts. This allows teams to share packages from public and private sources, including Maven, NPM, NuGet, and more, and incorporate package sharing into their pipelines. So this brings us to the features of DevOps. First we have is dashboard control. You can rapidly navigate to different regions of the project, build and manage dashboards, and set dashboard widgets using the DevOps dashboard functionality. Then we have improved source control. Git and Team Foundation version control, a centralized client-server system, which are two prominent methods of source control supported by Azure DevOps solution. To observe change history, you can add and manage Azure Git tags, reviews, downloads, and modify files. Following that, we have plan and track your work. You can utilize Azure DevOps systems to track features, requirements, user stories, tasks, issues, and more using a variety of work items. Then we have integrated collaboration servers, a tool that allows teams to collaborate throughout the whole Azure DevOps feature set, including team dashboards, project wiki, discussion within work item forms, and many others. Then we have support for exploratory testing. Manual exploratory and continuous testing are made easier with Azure DevOps, which include workflow customization, end-to-end traceability, criteria-based selection, and real-time visualization that show the test activities. And at last comes continuous integration and deployment. Many developers use CI/CD, and Azure DevOps makes it so easy to do so. Developers may automate various design activities with Azure pipelines, including defining and building association steps, writing test instructions, and managing simultaneous releases. Well, this brings us to Azure DevOps services. You get an integrated set of services and tools with Azure DevOps to manage your software project, from planning to development to testing and deployment. A client or server model is used to deliver these services. Many of them are offered via a user-friendly web interface that works with all major browsers. The source control, build pipelines, and work tracking are just a few of the services that may be managed through a client. You can see the left pane is where you access Azure DevOps services as demonstrated in the figure below. So now that we have covered Azure DevOps Services, let's move on to Azure DevOps Server. Version control, reporting, requirements, management, project management, automated builds, testing, and release management are all capabilities of Azure DevOps Server, a Microsoft product. It provides DevOps features and spans the complete application cycle. So now that we know what Azure DevOps Services and Azure DevOps Server are, so let's have a crisp comparison between them to know how exactly they differ from each other. Despite the fact that Azure DevOps Service is a hosted version of Azure DevOps Server, there are several features that differ. Some functions of Azure DevOps Server aren't available in Azure DevOps Services. So when deciding which platform to use or considering a transition from on-premises to the cloud, keep the following points in mind: scope and scale data, authentication, users and groups, and manage user access. So first is scope and scale data. Azure DevOps Services and Azure DevOps Server are slightly different. Organizations and projects are currently the only alternatives for scoping and scaling data. Azure DevOps Services organization get their own URLs and always have exactly one project collection, whereas deployment, project collection, and projects are the three methods for scoping and scaling data in Azure DevOps Server. Then we have authentication. To connect to Azure DevOps Services using the public internet, depending on your organization's arrangement, you can use Microsoft account credentials or Azure AD credentials to log in. You can also configure Azure AD to require multi-factor authentication, IP address restrictions, and other security features. But you connect to an intranet serving using Azure DevOps Server. Windows authentication and your Active Directory domain credentials are used to log in. So this method is completely open and you will never be asked to sign in. Next we have users and groups. You may use a similar technique to grant access to groups of users in Azure DevOps Services. Azure AD groups can be added to Azure DevOps Services group. So you must add users one at a time if you utilize Microsoft account instead of Azure AD. On the other hand, by adding Active Directory groups to multiple Azure DevOps groups, you may grant user access to deployments in Azure DevOps Server. The membership of AD groups are kept in sync, so users gain and lose access to Azure DevOps Server as they are added and withdrawn in AD. And at last, there is Manage User Access. You manage access to features in Azure DevOps and Azure DevOps Server by assigning users to an access level. Each user in your Azure DevOps Services organization must be assigned an access level. As usual, as Visual Studio subscriber sign in, Azure DevOps Services verifies them. So without a Visual Studio subscription, you can give basic access to 5 users for free. Whereas all use of Azure DevOps Server is on the honor system. Specify the access levels on the administration page to set access levels for users based on their license and assign unlicensed user stakeholder access only. So now that we have covered all the important features and concepts of Azure DevOps, now let's move on to the next very important aspect of Azure DevOps, which is Azure DevOps Lab. The Azure DevOps Lab is a place where you can learn about software development and operations with Azure DevOps Services. You can simplify and speed up the DevOps process. It explains how to use Azure DevOps Services to automate software delivery and satisfy business requirements. So to understand it in a better way, let's have a demo of Azure DevOps Lab. So let's start with our Azure DevOps demo. So first, what we need to do is navigate to this website, azure.microsoft.in, or we can directly log in through dev.azure.com also. So first, what we need to do is sign into a Microsoft Azure account. So after signing in, you'll be led to this page that you just need to click on continue. And here what you need to do is create an organization under which you're gonna create your projects, multiple projects, and you're gonna attach your team members to it or group members to it whom you want to give the access to your projects. So what is the difference between organization and project is, if you have given anybody access to your organization or somebody is a part of your organization, then then that particular individual will have access to all of your projects. But if you have given somebody only access to your project, then he'll be only restricted to that particular project. He won't be able to access any other project that is present under that particular organization that you both are part of. So basically, organization is something that is used to connect to groups of a related project or somebody who is already a part of a particular organization. So here we will give it a name. So I am giving simply demo as an organization name. And here you can see that the projects under this organization will be hosted under the South India region, and we need to enter the captcha and click on continue. Just a second. So now you can see it is saying that it is taking you to an organization. Okay, so we already have an organization of the same name, so let's just change it to something else. Let's give it simply demo org. So here you can see this saying that it's taking to your Azure DevOps organization where you'll be creating your projects. So now you can see your organization name here, and here you just need to create a project name. So I'm giving it simply demo project. Now below you can see visibility. We can opt either public or private. So what is public or private? So basically, if you keep the visibility of the project public, then once you copy this URL, so as I was saying, once you copy this URL into some other browser or incognito mode, you will be able to have the access to the project. But if you keep its visibility private, then only the people who have real access to your organization or to your project will be able to access that project or will be able to see that project or work on it. As you can see, public projects are disabled for our organization, so we can't select public. So we'll go for private and click on create project. Now here you can see the home page of your organization where you have this project, and here you can access the statistics of project, how it is performing, how much time you have contributed to it, or what all services you have added to your project. And down below you will be able to see that there is just one member, which is the root user of this project, and once you start adding more members to your project, their details will be added to this particular block. So now here you can see these are the services, boards, repos, pipelines, test plans, and artifacts services that is provided to you to add to your project. So now let's have a look at them one by one. So first one is boards. As we click on boards, you can see multiple options, your work items, boards, backlots, sprints, queries, delivery plans. Here you can see it is all empty as we haven't added any service or we haven't worked on a project yet. So let's just click on new work item. So here you can see one is epic, issue, and task. So epic is an option that is you can see a pro option for work items. So basically epic represents business initiative to be accomplished, and it is basically available for basic, agile, scrum, and CMMI process templates. So what it exactly does is increases customer engagement, that whatever your project is, if it's the engagement of your project, that how it's performing and how it is performing towards the people whom you have given access to the project. Also helps to create new architecture to improve the performance of your project, and it also supports mobile applications. So basically, when you're deploying any mobile application in your project or creating a mobile application as a project, so it will be able to support that as well. Let's click on Epic. So here you can see you need to enter a title for your Epic option. So here you need to add the title of your Epic, like for say we are creating a healthcare or an e-commerce application. So obviously it will be segmented into different parts. Like you'll be having search options or support options or home page. So we just need to give it a name. And here you can see its state is to do. For now we just have to do because we haven't actually created anything in our project and we haven't given any input. So it's in to-do list, and once we start working on it, we can change the state. It can be in progress or completing. So there are multiple states for your Epic. And here you can see the area is simply demo project. That means that we want to assign this search new Epic into this project. And we can also click description over here, that what exactly our new Epic is about. Like for search options, we need to specify or give a description that this is for searching options related to our application. Like for healthcare, one can type medicines or doctors or slots. So that is thing that we can add in a description, that it will help the user to understand what this feature is about. So this was Epic, and once done we can click on save. So here you can see other stuffs also, like priority. So we can select priority according to our will. So here by default it is priority 2. So priority basically is which function will come first. And here you can mention start date, target date. So once it's done, you can click on save. Now let's move to the next one. Second, what we have is issue. So basically issues are for you to track your work, and epics are used to track the group work and the large scenarios. But this is track like we saw the project statistics, so it will help you to understand the individual progress. So basically issues are raised when you find any obstacle in your progress or in your work. So it can be compared to impediments also. So when you're working with Agile, you need to deal with issues. So by default we have Agile to our project assigned. So like for example, we can see that we have a meeting. So during the meeting, members report if they have encountered any bug or any impediments. So what next we have to do is we have to track them and resolve it. So these are the issues that can one can find, like possibilities. So you can assign here and give it a description again and just save it. So once a user faces these issues, we can keep a track of it, and once it is raised, we can resolve it. Coming to the next one. Next we have is task. So by the name only we can well understand what task is. So a task is a smaller item or smaller segment to track activity that contains all the information needed to accomplish a part of an issue, or you can say user story requirements. So this option is available for basic, agile, scrum and CMMI process templates. So again we can give it a name, what task we want to assign, and give it a description, and according to that we can select the priority and save it. So the task will be added to your project. We are not assigning any task right now because, as I said, we haven't added any particular project or particular details or application, or we haven't deployed any application yet in our project. So that is why we are not adding anything over here again, because first we need to understand what these services are and what these services are used for. Next we have backlots. So backlots helps you to understand the flow of your project. Like today you have contributed 10% of your time, and you have completed the 10% of the work, or you have worked on certain segments of the project, like for say you have worked on the support area. So it helps you to understand and keep a track of the flow of your project, how it is performing and how it is developing and how it is built every day. Next we have is sprints. So sprints are basically a time-boxed intervals that supports your team's ability to work using the agile processes and tools. So what you can do is, whether you're having, let's say you're having a healthcare application, so you just need to have a segment of it and drop it over here. So what it will do is it will get the attention of all the team members. So basically what it does, it makes your project more manageable. It increases the quality of your project and also makes it work even more faster and more frequently once you add the segment to the sprint. So you can say it in one way, it gets the priority and people need to work on it, and it gives your project more flexibility to adapt to change. Now sometimes what happens is many associate Scrum sprints with agile software development. So sometimes agile are often thought to be the same thing. Coming to the next one, we have queries. So the query page basically remembers the view you have last navigated, and when you log in again or when you come back again to the same portal, it returns you to that very particular view only. So you can say that it runs with Azure DevOps command line interface, and all the open like all the pages like you have gone through, you can keep a track of it over here. You just need to click over here all, and you can just see all the queries you have defined in all this while, and also you can share the queries with the team members, so they can also know that where you have been working lately, or which segment you have been working on, or what was the last navigation which you have been going through in this whole project. So it can help you manage your project in a more efficient way and keep a track of how and what all segments you have been working on and what all segments you need to work on in your project. Coming to the next one, we have delivery plans. So here you can see we haven't created any plan yet. So basically, delivery plans are a calendar view of multiple teams or team backlogs or individual backlogs from different projects. So basically, it replaces the delivery plans marketplace extension, and it is only available for Azure DevOps services. So here you can say it's a summary or time summary of all the projects you have been working on in a particular organization. So now that we have covered both, let's move to the next one, which is repos. So with the name itself, we can well understand that repo stands for repositories. So basically, it is a set of repositories that allows you to control and manage your project code. Like, for say, you're deploying a healthcare application. So these repos options help you create repositories and manage your code of that particular application in a more efficient way. So what you can do is you can connect project solutions by using the repos link. As you can see here, it is shown. So let's look into its option one by one. First, we have files. So in files, your project solution will be available in this section. So repositories can create, manage, and import those solutions. Okay, so you just need to upload your solutions of your code or your project here, and it will just create repositories for it, and it will help you manage those solutions in a better way. And you can see these clone to your computer, push an existing repository from command line, and import a repositories if you want to import any solution. Like here, you can just click on import and add the solution to a repository. So this is what files do. Basically, you can see it's like a physical folder itself where you have all your mini files or repositories or solutions, you can say, of data. So basically, it functions like a physical folder itself. So it helps you keep a track of your codes and everything. Next comes is commits. So in commit section, we can manage commit history for your repositories that you have created in files. So it just commits those repositories with author details from branches. Like for say we have a team, one from support branch and one from management branch. So whoever creates that repositories and adds the solution, it commits that repositories under that particular member of the team with the branch name. Then comes pushes. So push histories are available in this section from each pull request done by the developers. Developers, for say, the team members who have been working on this particular project and creating repositories and solutions. So what is pull request? So pull request or PRs are a way to change or review or merge code in our repositories. So basically, team uses these PRs to review code and give feedbacks or changes, whether like for say you are deploying a code or a solution. So one can review them, what all changes needs to be made or what all upgradation needs to be made, or whether the code is already fine or not. So basically, teams use these PRs to review the solutions and codes stored in these repositories, or you can merge multiple solutions or multiple codes into the main branch. So basically, reviewers can step through the proposed changes and leave those comments and vote to approve or reject that particular code, or you can say to upgrade or what all changes you want to make it. They vote for it that whether that needs to be made to that particular solution or not. So these are the PRs. Next, we have branches. So we can manage multiple branching information in this particular section. You can create or release branches from master to dev. Okay, so all users can actually create or release branches from branching information available in this particular section. Next come tags. So tags are used to point out specific commits, like giving message tags and data information to branches. You can create your naming conventions to branches by using commit tags. And the next one is pull request, which we have already discussed. The PRs that are basically used in pushes. So now we have completed repos also. So let's move on to the next one, which is pipelines. So here you can see that we don't have any pipeline created for us yet. So let's have a look at its provided options one by one. So the first one is environments. So basically it is a collection of resources where you actually deploy your application that you're working on. So you can say it contains one or more virtual machines, containers, web apps, etc. Whatever resources you have actually used for deploying your application, or what all services you have used for creating the environment for the deployment of your application. For say we need to deploy our application and it needs an Windows Java environment. So whatever resources you need to create that environment, that will be added to this environment list. It will be listed over this section. Next we have releases option. So basically this pipeline stores the data of your pipelines or stages or tasks and deployments in Azure pipelines, that deployments you have done so far in your applications, for your applications actually. So you can say that it helps your team continuously deliver software to your customers at a faster pace with a very minimum, you can say, lower risk. So you can fully automate the testing and the delivery of your software or applications on multiple stages. Or you can also set up an automated process with approvals and on-demand deployments. Then comes library. So again you can see the page is blank. From the name itself we can scrutinize that it will be a collection of assets from Azure DevOps projects. So basically it is a collection of build and release assets of a particular project. So assets defined in a library can be used in multiple builds and multiple releases pipelines of the project. Okay, so all assets that are defined in a library share a common security model. So you can control who can define new items in a library and who can use an existing item that you have already added in this library. So roles are defined for library items. For say you have added a particular asset or particular item to this library segment, and you can assign a particular member who will be working on this item. Okay, so roles are defined here for these, and these governs the operation you can perform on those items. That person will be keeping track of whatever changes have been made or whatever upgradation has been made to the particular item that has been added to this segment, library segment. So then comes task groups. So task groups are a way to standardize and centrally manage deployment steps for all applications in your projects. So when you include a task group in your definition and then make a change centrally to the task group, the change is automatically reflected in all the definitions. So we can conclude with this that a task group allows you to encapsulate a sequence of tasks already defined in, you can say, build or a release pipelines or into a single task group. So it just encapsulates all those sequence of tasks. So you can choose to extract the parameters from those encapsulated tasks as configured variables and abstract the rest of the task information. So what happens is the new task group is automatically added to the task catalog, and it is ready to be added to other release and build pipelines. So task groups are stored at the project level and are not accessible outside the project group. So the task groups will be only limited to the members who you have assigned in this project, and it won't be accessible to the other people or other team members from different projects, even though they are the member of the same organization. So you can say it's more of a private segment. Now that we have covered task groups, next we have deployment groups. So deployment groups are only available with classic release pipelines, and it is totally different from the deployment jobs. It is basically a collection of deployment related steps defined in a YAML file to accomplish a specific task. So in nutshell, it is a logical set of deployment target machine that have agents installed on each one. The deployment groups represent the physical environment, for example, testing or development or production environment. So a development group is just another grouping of agents, much like an agent pool, you can say. So what you can do with this is you can specify the security context and runtime targets for the agents, or you can let yourself view live logs for each server as a deployment take place. Or you can also enable you to use machine tags to limit deployment to a specific set of servers. So this was about deployment groups. Now that we have covered one more service, let's move on to the next one, that is test plans. So test plans, the first one we have is progress report. So you can analyze with this only. The progress report will be the progress of the project you have been working on, or the deployments you have been doing, or the tasks you have been performing. So basically it lets you analyze and view data for more than one or an individual test plans in a particular project. So data for test plans can be migrated from an on-premises Azure DevOps server that won't show up in this report. Okay. So basically this section lets you drill down by each test plans and give you summary of each test plan in it. So this section also lets you to navigate to a test plan or suite of choice by double clicking on it. Okay. So this was the progress report. Next we have runs. So basically it represents the execution of pipelines. So during a run, the pipeline is processed and agents process one or more jobs. So when you run a pipeline, many things happen under the cover. while you often won't need to know about them occasionally, it's useful to have the bigger picture, right? So Azure pipelines will get processed under this test runs segment. So you'll be able to see what all performance is happening over here. Like while you're running a pipeline, you can see the running state, the date you have started that, or what all that running pipeline includes, like jobs, steps, and tasks. So runs power both continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines. Next we have load test. So basically Azure load testing is a fully managed Azure service that enables developers and testers to generate high-scale load with custom Apache JMeter scripts and gain actionable insights to catch and fix performance bottlenecks at scale. So basically, application performance and resiliency are more important than ever before. So how you can run an Azure DevOps test? So first you need to click on it and select a test suite that contains all the automated tests, and you can just choose the run test option. And it will start processing it. So this service basically simulates traffic for your application, you can say, regardless of on which platform or where it is actually hosted. So now that we have covered test plans as well, let's move on to the next one, that is artifacts. So this is the last service that is provided to your project by Azure DevOps. So artifacts is a byproduct produced during the software development process. So it mainly consists of the project source code, dependency, or binaries or resources that could be represented in different layout depending on the particular technology. So it's like an extension that makes it easier to discover, install, or publish and Maven packages in Azure DevOps. It's basically deeply integrated with other hubs like Build, so that package management can become a seamless part for your existing workflows. So what is exactly it is used for? So it can be used for both public and private organization with teams of any size. It basically manages your NPM or NuGet packages via feeds, and it allows you to create and share your Maven. So it's a package management solution integrated with your Azure DevOps. So this was all about the services that is provided to your projects. So now that you know what all services do for your project and what are their benefits and how they function, now you can actually plan your project and start creating and working on it and start deploying with the users and what all services you want for your particular project. So what you can do is click here on project setting. Just a second. Yeah, you can just click on project setting. So now what you can do is you can add in description that what your actual project is about. So for say, like I said, if you're creating a healthcare application, so you can just give it a description that it is for healthcare related, the issues, queries, and helps needed, and like you're tying that particular application with different hospitals or healthcare organizations. So you can actually add those information in this description. And the process, which basically it is basic for private one, but you do get a range of process for your project when it depending on the visibility of it, like for agile or scrum, you can say. So now here you can see that only my ID is attached to it, as I'm the only member here and I'm the administrator. So you can add members here, and scrolling down, you can, now that you know what all services provide you or what they provide to your project, so depending on the need of your project, you can just select the services you want to assign to your particular project. Like, per se, if I don't want boards assigned to it, or you can say if I don't want the services provided by the boards, you can just click on it and select remove boards, and I just need to refresh it. So yeah, here you can see I have overview, repos, pipelines, artifacts, but I don't have test plans and boards. As you can see, test plan is basically all the collection of whatever you're managing, which is indirectly assigned to boards. So as you remove the boards, the test plans also get removed. Okay, and once like this, you can just select what all services you want specifically, and if you want to delete your project, you can just go ahead and delete it. So this was all about the Azure DevOps services and Azure DevOps Virtual Studio, we can say, and how the demonstration of how a project actually functions in this Virtual Studio. Well, this was all about Azure DevOps. I hope you liked this video and learned something new from it. If you have any questions or doubts, please feel free to ask them away in our comment section, and our experts will reach you back. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.